regression. Okay, the student obtained the scores 6, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. What is the arithmetic mean? This is a very simple question. So for the solution, the first thing is the mean is equal to the sum of observation divided by the number of observation. Okay, so just plus everything here, you get 40 as the sum. The number of observation is 5, so you have 40 over 5 equals to 8. So that gives us option C, the correct answer, option C. Okay. Alright, so moving on, we are finding the mean of the observation. So it's very, very simple. Of course, the middle as 9. 9 is the mean. Okay, 9 is the mean. So there are solutions here, look at the solution here. The middle, therefore it's 9. Okay. One is find the mode of the following observations. You have 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 4, 7, 8. Of course, for the answer you have 4 because it's occurring more. Of course, the frequency is more. So you have 4 as the answer. Okay, so moving on. Find the range of the observation, lowest minus highest minus lowest. So you have 20 minus 5, that gives us 15. So if you move up to the solution here, I wrote down here. So solution you have maximum minus minimum, that's 6 minus 5, that's 15. And that gives us option B as the correct answer. 120. Find the mean of the following observation 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Alright, so what is the mean of this guy? Now when you see let me just give you a trick. Once you see consecutive numbers like this, consecutive numbers, the middle number is always the mean. The middle number. Remember I said the middle number is median. But when you see consecutive number like this, the middle is always the mean. So what am I trying to say? This is the middle 14. This means that the mean is 14. But if you want to do it, you want to solve. So when the exam settings, once you consecutive numbers only. If you see 1, 5, 7, 6, please add it and calculate mean normally. But when you see consecutive number like 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, the middle is always the mean. Okay? Take note of that. Alright, so you can see the calculation here, you have 14 as the answer, of course. Now, a frequency distribution has values x 246 and frequency f325 respectively. This is how your questions will be like. Nobody will give you table. Please don't expect table. Nobody will give you table. This is how they give you. They expect that you use your head to find the table. Alright? Now, you see, first thing is to formulate a table. To use your paper and pen, formulate a table. This is the table here. Then get your fx, right? 6 and 8 and 30. So remember the formula. You sum the fx together. You sum all the fx. That's 6 plus 6 plus 30, right? Or 6 plus 6 plus 30. Then divide by what? The total frequency. That's 325. You come down here, you find the solution. So you see here, 4 divided by 10, that gives us 4.4. You see the solution here, 4.4, and this is the frequency table here. Alright, so you have 4.4 as the answer. Okay, so move on. Find the relative frequency of a class with frequency 15 when the total frequency is 60. That's 15 over 60. We have explained that several times. About 3 questions, so 0.25. The frequency over total frequency. Okay. Now, a class has a relative frequency of 0.35. What is the percentage frequency? That's times 100. It's so simple, times 100. So this times 100, that will definitely give us 35%. We need to solve this one. Okay? Then we need the calculation. This is the calculation here. Now, a data set contains 100 observations. If a particular class has a frequency of 20, what is the percentage frequency? Of course, 20%. But you know how you do it first? You have 20 divided by 100 times 100. That's 20. You don't need to waste time. 20%. Okay? So this is it, 20%. Now moving on, using Sturges, find the approximate number of classes for n 100. No Sturges, this is Sturges. K is equal to 1 plus 2 log. So log 100 is what 2. Now please take note. You might be saying, okay, the ability to have calculator, tend to use calculator. You might not use it. There's a video I completed on how to use calculator. You can watch that video and check out the use calculator. But if you don't understand the use of the calculator, don't go and use the calculator. The logs, the number that they are going to give you, the n, and they're going to give you simple n, like 100, 10, 1, 1000. Those ones are very easy to calculate. Okay, from your four figure tables, very, very easy to calculate. Right? You see log 100. Log 100. I know that log 100 is equals to 2. Why? Because that's 2 zeros. Just take it like that. Log 1000 is equals to what? 3. Because that's what 3 zeros. Log 1. Okay, how many zeros? There's not many zeros. So take note of that. So by the time we do it, we have 7.644 as the answer. That gives us option C. Now you might not see 7.6. The present number of the classes is about 8. But among the options, it's 7 that is closest. So if you look at the options, there is 8. There's no 8. So if you see something like this, you now be confident about the answer. The answer is take note. The 7 that is closest to 8. So go and pick 10. Go and pick 6. Okay. Alright. So moving on, the minimum value of the data set is 12 and the maximum is 52. What is the range? Alright. So this one is very, very simple. You have 40 as the answer. No time to waste time. Okay. 1 to 7 is 6. So 1 to 7, find the class mark of the class interval 20 and 30. Remember to find class mark, you plug these two together and divide by what? By 2. Okay? So if you look at the solution here, 20 plus 30 divided by 2, that's 50, that's 25. Pick your answer, then you move on. So moving on, find the weighted mean of values 4 and 8 having the weight 2 and 3 respectively. It is just the same process. It's more like group data. Don't allow them to confuse you. Okay, more like group data. Fx summation fx over summation f. It's the same thing. You want to be divided 2 divided by 5, that's 6.4 as the answer. That gives us option C. Okay, so this is the solution here. So let's go back to the question, solution here, and then pick your answer. These questions are very simple, and that's why I'm not wasting so much time. So find the geometrical mean of 4 and 9. You will definitely come across geometrical mean. How do you get geometrical? How do you solve for geometrical mean? You know it is the square root of the product of the two values. So 4 times 9 is 6. Product of square root of the 6 is 6. Okay. Alright. Question 130. Find the harmonic mean of 4 and 6. 4 and 6. Okay. Harmonic mean. This is the formula for harmonic mean here. So you have 2ab over a plus b. This is for two values. This is trick for two values. Once you are given two values, just use this trick. Then you are good to go. Okay, then you solve this and get 4.8. Alright. Alright, moving on. If the probability is 0.35, find the complement. Remember, I said complement is what? 1 minus, so if you say 1 minus 0.35, that gives us 0.65. Okay. Alright, you can see the solution here. Now moving on, a card is selected from a standard deck of 2 cards. What is the probability of selecting a king? It is 1 over 13. 1 over 13. A king, how many kings are in the card? You have 4 kings. 4 kings over 52. Okay, and that gives us 1 over 13. Now some common questions that you should know the answers to, even without solving, like this. Example, this question. Okay, alright, so you can see the solution here. Then you have the answer. So moving on, another set of probability questions that you will be coming across is coin. They say what is the probability of obtaining a head when the fair coin is tossed? How many heads are in the coin? 1 head, 1 tail. So you have 1 over 2, that gives us half. Okay, half. So you can see it here, 1 over 2. This is the solution, possible outcome. Head and tail, that's 2. Variable outcome 1, that's 1 over 2, that gives us half. Okay, now 134. 2 fair coins are tossed. What is the probability of obtaining exactly 1 head? Okay, you see half. Now the solution, you have if two coins are tossed, you have head, you have head tail, you have tail head, you have tail tail. So it's very simple. How we beat them is head tail, right? And then you have head tail. So you have head, you have head tail, you have tail head, and you have tail tail. Right? So all these things that you should take note of. So now exactly 1 head occurs in this. And then occurs in this, that gives us 2 over 4. And that's what we take note of is English. What will make people feel so well in probability is English. So now this question says exactly 1 edge. Exactly 1 edge. Exactly 1 edge. Now if you look at all these values, exactly 1 edge. It is just H, T, and TH is exactly 1. You don't say at least 1 edge. If you say at least 1 edge, then our answer will now be 3 over 4. I just hope you get that. Okay? Right. Now moving on. A fair die, another concept to become across is die. Fair die is strong. This is the probability of obtaining an even number. So in die you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so how many even number? You have 6, 4, and 2, 3. So you have 3 over 6. That gives us half. So half is our answer. Okay, still look at the answers. Look at the solution here. Solution. Then let's move on to the next question. A fair die is strong. What is the probability of obtaining a number greater than 4? What are the two numbers greater than 4? 5 and what 6. That means it's 2 over 6. Okay, that gives us 1 over 3 as the answer. 1 over 3. These probability questions are very simple, very, very simple. Okay, now this is what you're most likely coming across. These kind of questions that are very funny. Once you know the formula, now good to go. That is why you must name the formula. So you have probability of P 0.4, probability of B 0.3, and A and B are mutually exclusive. Find this guy. All you need to do is just input your formulas. This is the formula here. So A plus B and 0.4 plus 0.5 plus 0.7 is as straightforward as that. Then you pick your answer and you move to the next question. Very simple. If the probability of P is 0.5 and probability of B is 0.2, A and B are independent, find this guy. All you need to do is also what impute your formulas. You should know the formulas very well. This is the formula, the product. So just multiply the product and then you get your answer. And please, you take notes of the acronym AMOA. Like you want to spell Amos, but the S you change it to A. What does this mean? This means in addition you multiply, and when you say and you multiply, when you say or you add. It's as simple as that. Now if the probability of A is 0.7 and probability of B is 0.5, find it, and this guy is this is the kind of question that you know. If you don't know the formula, you can't solve this. That is why the formula is very, very important. Okay, so if you move on to this formula. This is the formula here. This is the formula here. So we're looking for this now. This is the formula. All you need to do is 0.7 or 0.5 minus 0.2 and 1.0. Pick your answer and you move on. Okay, can you look at the question again? And this video, please ensure you are posting it to solve in case you are still familiarizing yourself with the formulas. Alright. If the correlation coefficient between x and y is 0.8, what is the coefficient of the determination? What you need to do is what determination is square, r square. The coefficient of determination is r square, which means that 0.8 square, that gives us 0.64. It's as simple as that, 0.64. So we have 0.64 the answer. Alright, moving on. If r is equals to 0 minus 0.6, what is r square? Same question, different ways, as 0.36. Please don't be tempted to say minus. Please take note. If the correlation coefficient of y on x is 0.5 and x on y is 0.8, find the correlation coefficient. We're looking for the correlation coefficient. That's r. Remember this formula, all you need to do is multiply and find the square root. Then you do that, you have your 0.60. But now in the option, they don't really bother to solve it, you just put it in square root of 0.4. Okay. Now if the same question, all you need to do is what? 2 times 1.2 times 0.5, that's 1. So you have square root of 1. Square root of 1 is still 1. Okay, so option B is the correct answer. That option B to be the correct answer. Alright, so moving on, we have if the regression coefficient y on x is 4 and x on y is 0.25, what is r? R is 1. Same thing, 4 times 0.25, that is 1. Okay, 0.25 is 1 over 4. So this 4 cancels this 4, that's 1. In case you're asking why is it 1, it's 1. It's the same question, just change it. Same question. Alright, so moving on, 145. If x is 10, y is 20, and these are questions that you've come across, and the coefficient relation of y on x is 2. Find the value of y when x is 12 using the regression equation y minus y bar equals to the coefficient in the bracket. Now, how do you solve all of this? Just moving on, you have first thing is to impute everything. So you give us this as 20, and you give us this as 10. This is the formula we're using here. So you just impute it immediately. They have given us this guy, the coefficient is 2. So just impute this formula. So what they are telling you to look for, subject of formula. So y is equals to 20. It's very simple. Subject of formula. That's what they are just telling you to do. Find the subject of formula, and then you are good to go. Alright. If x is equals to 15, y is equals to 13, and this is the coefficient is 1.5, find y when x is 17. Now, if you see something like this, you ask which formula am I going to use? Please take note. You're not using a different formula for the same formula. This is the formula you are going to use here. You have y minus y bar is equals to the coefficient xy or yx rather over x minus x. It's as simple as that. Take note of that. This formula. By the time you do everything and you have your answers to what? 33. Okay, now for 147, if the total frequency of distribution is 80 and the cumulative frequency up to a particular pass is 50, what is the cumulative relative frequency? It's as simple as that. Remember 50 over 80, then you get your answer. Now, a class has a frequency of 18 out of a total frequency of 90. Find the relative frequency. The same thing, you have 18 over 90, and you get your answer. Okay? If a data set has a minimum value of 35 and a maximum value of 85 and it is divided into 6 classes, what is the approximate class weight? It is 10. Then, how do I know that it is 10? How do I know it is 10? Now, firstly, we'll find the range. 85 and 25. That's 60. The range of 60. Now, it says divided into how many? 10, right? Or how many? Sorry, divided into 6. So, we have 60 divided by 60 of 10. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now, last question for this revision video, we have this example has observation 5, 10, 18, 20, 25. What is the meaning of this sample? Okay, it's a very simple question, so do not put it in the comment section. So if you have watched this video to this point, I know this video has given you a glimpse of how your exam is going to look like. So do well to hit the subscription button if you have not subscribed to this channel, and do well to share this video to your friends, your classmates, or colleagues, or department of HR. How to use it to give information on the success in the upcoming examination.